test, resume. Everything is important. Everything is important. And we start with about 25 names that we thought, whether it's offense, defense, ex coaches, those with no coaching experience, college. There's really no limitation who those 25 are going to be, except we have a hope that they might be excellent. And then we go from there and with lots and lots of research, narrow it. And in this case, narrowed it to 10. And we interviewed 10 candidates. Um, and again, I was blown away by the quality of these candidates. The NFL is lacking in slots, not in candidates, and that's I'm really glad to be able to say that. And I'm not saying that diplomatically. Trust me, anyone, any friend who's asked me, it's like these were really, really impressive people and candidates, and some of them quite young. They'll probably be coaches. They'll be the hot candidates in a year or two or three, no question about it. And that's what we learned in the process. You also learn a lot about what other people's perspectives are on the present and future of the game and what leadership looks like, what football looks like in terms of offense, defense, special teams, how they would run a franchise, their vision, and on and on and on. Again, I repeat, they give a lot to us. We give just an opportunity, and I'm very grateful for that experience because you don't go through it very often, or at least we haven't. Um, I also want to take a moment to thank the coaches we have worked with that won't be with us going forward, because some of them, many of them, have been just terrific partners, and we won a Super Bowl together. And in the case of some, been with us and with me for a long, long time. Communicated directly with many. I wish without COVID would have been able to personally spend time with them, but I want to single them out in terms of just their contribution. It's not easy to win a Super Bowl. It's not easy to be in the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years, and they deserve a lot of credit. In particular, just because he's kind of like a son to me. I just want to talk about Deuce because Deuce is somebody very special to me. He's been a terrific player, coach, leader for us. He'll always be a Philadelphia Eagle. He and I talked well into the night the other night, and I love the man. I just believe, and I think he believes that it's best for his goal of being a head coach in the league to work for another organization for a while and set himself up the way many of the candidates have. And it'll help him, and I just want the best for him. And I think he'll be an excellent leader for wherever he is in the future. And I just want to share that love for Deuce because he's very special. Um, that being said, I just want to kind of go into why Nick Sirianni. Nick, with a group of so many good candidates, just shined throughout the process from the very beginning. So the research on Nick was terrific, and it was somebody that knew the game as well as anybody. Football IQ off the charts, a grinder, somebody that had an unlimited work ethic and a desire to be great. He always had coaching in mind from his very beginning, his family background, his brothers, his dad, of course. And, I just think it's somebody who has wanted to excel in this profession for so long, has excelled, and is more than ready to take the next step. But the research was part of it. It's a big part of it. The interview is probably, I don't know what percentage, it's probably 33% of it, somewhere around there. As soon as you got to spend time with Nick, and we probably spent about, I don't know, 10, 12 hours together over 2 days, it became apparent that this is a very special communicator, not just a brilliant football IQ, which was very evident early on as we'd go through how he game plans, how he faces attacks, defenses, and how to maximize your personnel, not just sort of relying on a scheme, but how to each week attack exactly where who you're playing and what their strengths and weaknesses are in great detail. But much more than that, somebody who connects with everybody. And to me, it continues the culture we've had and builds on it. And in today's world, it doesn't get talked about maybe that often, but for the Eagles, culture remains the most important thing. And in our world today, there's such polarization, there's such a disconnect between people, and people get divided by race, by age, by politics, by whatever it is. There's social media that contributes to that, and it's I think really valuable to have somebody that innately and genuinely cares about who they work with, the players that play for them and with them, the other coaches, the staff, somebody who is genuine about caring. And for me, Nick epitomizes that. And the first step, I think, in being a great coach in modern football today, modern sports today, is to care very much about the players and coaches you work with and everybody. But a player who is 22, 30 years old in this world, uh, if you care, you can earn trust. If the caring is not real, if you're not being genuine, players are too smart and they see right through that, as they should. And one of the prerequisites for this job was to be able to have a head coach who literally cares every single day. And that continues the culture that we've been building over the last 5 years, and and potentially accentuates it even further. But that was a deal breaker for me, for anybody that I felt um, didn't have that quality. I think that's kind of I don't know if it's the hidden sauce, but it's what propels everything else. Because if you care, you earn trust. If you earn trust, you can motivate. If you motivate, you can teach. And it all spins from there in terms of improving a player's performance, improving a team performance, increasing discipline, increasing accountability, and being able to really move off a status quo and advance whatever vision the head coach and his staff have. And I think that Nick has that in very unique ways, and it's a credit to him as a person. And as you'll get to know him, I think you'll see what we all see in that. Football IQ off the charts, as I said. Leadership, it goes hand in hand with what I've been talking about, but it's even bigger than that. Can command a room. He has an edge. I think he'll be himself, and at times it'll be with an edge. And I think that's great. I encourage that. Independent thinker, not tied to a particular scheme that's in fashion at any moment, but wants to maximize the individuals on the team, bring everybody together for a common good. And maybe, with all that, the most important, a teacher who wants teachers around him at all times. And we talked about how to put together a great staff, and he has a great vision for that. It's a combination of those that he knows already that are wonderful teachers, and those he was very much open to meeting and expanding his own horizons from. And that's what he's doing with his staff right now. Um, so I think it's the man, it's the teacher, it's the coach, it's the father, it's the husband, and a lot goes into it. And an important decision for an owner. It's an important decision for an organization, and I'm very very excited by Nick, and want to welcome his family, Brett, and their three kids. And I think it's just a day where I'm exhilarated. Been exhilarated during this search. Sometimes you think the search is oh boy, we got to do this lengthy search, and really it was exhilarating for me, and I think for all of us. And Nick was sort of the culmination of a lot of thought that went into it and a lot of projection. And of course, that's what it is. Um, it's an evaluation of what is now and what coach he can become and what organization we can become with his leadership. So with that, I want to welcome Nick to the Eagles, to Philadelphia, to the best fan base in America. And I wish him all the best. Can't wait for him to get, well, he's already gotten started. And I think you're going to really enjoy what he provides as a person, as a coach, and as someone to get to know. With that, Nick, look forward to your opening remarks and any questions for Nick. And thank you all again for virtually attending today.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Coach, welcome to Philadelphia. We'll get started with your opening remarks, and then we'll go ahead and open it up to questions.
First of all, I'd just like to thank Mr. Lurie for believing in me to be in charge of this unbelievable football team and this unbelievable organization in this great city. The fans, right? I can't wait. I know from experience. I know from experience of coming here and playing here as an opposing coach how passionate how passionate that the fans are here in Philadelphia, and I'm just glad we're on the same team now. You're on my side now. Thank you to Howie Roseman. I can't wait to work side by side with you in efforts to bring another championship back to the city of Philadelphia. It's been a great working with you so far, and look forward to the continuing that relationship. Thank you to Don Slowinski, all right, and the rest of the people around this organization. It was very apparent to me right from the beginning, like Mr. Lurie said, with the interview process, of how great the people are in this organization. It's a special group of people. It's a special group of people, and you can feel that right away. So just can't wait to start working with all of them. Thank you to the Indianapolis Colts. Thank you to the Irsay family. Thank you to Chris Ballard. And then most importantly, thank you to my friend, my mentor, and like my big brother, Frank Reich. They believed in me. They gave me a chance to be their offensive coordinator, and I'm forever grateful for them for that. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Brett, and our kids, Jacob, Taylor, and Miles, for your unending support, for your consistency, your steadiness through the ups and downs of a season. Just thank you for your just continual support of me and unconditional love. I love you guys. Thank you to my mom and dad. Thank you to my mom and dad for I just have two wonderful parents that care about me, that have been there for me for everything, that have been to every sporting event that I've ever been a part of. Had season tickets in Indianapolis when they live in Jamestown, New York. I'm quite positive they'll have season tickets here in Philadelphia. Just thank you for the example that you've given me to be the type of person I want to be. I can't thank you guys enough for that. I'd like to thank my brothers. I've always looked up to my brothers, both Mike and Jay. I've always looked up to them. And again, I have two older brothers that are football coaches, right? That are football coaches. So looked up to them in many ways. They're older than me, looked up to them in many ways. And what an example that they've given me as well, that I've tried to follow and make them proud of me. I'd like to thank all the coaches, all right? All the coaches that have helped shape me to the coach I am today. You know, you take a little bit of each coach that you've been around, right? You take a little bit of each coach that you've been around, and you make yourself out of that. You take the good, you take the bad, and you make the best out of the best out of you from those people. So thank you for believing in me. Thank you for teaching me, and thank you for just always being there for me. The coaches I'd like to thank, and I know I'll leave some out, but I need to thank these people first. My dad was my coach, so I thank him. Larry Karras, one of the at Mount Union College, my college coach. Thank him. Todd Haley, Romeo Cornell, Brian Dayball, Ken Wisenhunt, Mike McCoy, Anthony Lynn, and Frank Reich. Again, and many more that I know I can't mention all. But all these guys have shaped me to where I am today. And it's all about the players. It's all about the players. And I've been blessed to be around some unbelievable football players that I've built great relationships with, that I've went through battles with and went through the ups and downs of a season. I mean, that's a special relationship that you're able to build with a player and a coach, and I value that. And so I just like to mention a couple of them. And I know I'll leave some out again, but Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, Dontrell Inman, Tyrell Williams, Zach Pascal, T.Y. Hilton, Jacoby Brissett, Andrew Luck, Jack Doyle, Naheem Hines, Danny Woodhead, Ryan Kelly, and Quentin Nelson. It's been great just to get to know these guys and be in that room and be in the battle with them every single day. And I can't wait to build those same relationships with the players here in Philadelphia. I'm just so excited to be here with I mentioned, it's just such a great support staff here, the people in place here, a great culture that Mr. Laurie mentioned. It's just a wonderful organization. It's a first-class organization. And I just look to continue to build on that culture that they have here. The core values that I believe in that are important to any good team that I really want to make sure that we have here, all right, with the Philadelphia Eagles are the one is to connect with each other. All right, connect with each other. That's so important to me, is that we have a building here where everyone's connecting. Coaches are connecting to coaches. Players are connecting to players. And coaches are connecting to players. All right. When you have that connection, when you build these connections, right, you'll end up pushing a little bit harder for someone that you know and someone that you care for and someone that you love. And that's what we want to try to develop. And I get to be a part of a team. All of us, everybody in this building, we're a part of a team. I'm 39 years old. I'm a part of a team. That's unbelievable. Right. And we all should feel so lucky to be a part of that team. And when you can get that connection, that's a special part of an organization, a special part of a team. And all the best teams that I've ever been a part of had that connection. So look forward to doing that with the people here in Philadelphia. I think the other thing that's important to me is that we compete every single day. We compete every single day, just like it's important to practice a play to get good at that play so you can run it in a game. It's important to practice competing, right? It's important to practice competing. The parity in this league is so tight. All right, it's so tight. Every game comes down to a one score game. We have to pour that into our DNA here in Philadelphia, right? In the meeting room, it's important that we meet or compete on the field. And also off the field, we're constantly going to be competing with each other. The next thing that's important to me, and part of my core values, is accountability, right? We have to set the standard early. We have to set our standard early of what's acceptable and unacceptable on the field, and what we need to do to get better, right? And so that's my job, right? That's my job to set that standard with the coaches. And then when you really are cooking, the players are holding the players accountable, and everybody's holding each other accountable. All right. But accountability. Next thing that's very important to me is that we build a smart football team, that we have a smart football team here. And I know we have the people in place to do that. The first part of being smart is knowing what to do. We're going to have systems in place that are easier to learn. All right, complicated to the defense or offense that they're going against, or the special teams group that they're going against, but easy for us to learn. Because when we can when we can learn our system and we can get good at our system, then our talent can take over. Less thinking equals talent take over, but we need to have systems in place, and we will have systems in place to do so. The other thing that's highly important for a smart football team is game management and situational ball. I was just up in my office the other day, and I was showing a couple of coaches that haven't been around in a couple years of a video clip that I like to show to the team about how important situational ball is and how important those things are. And I showed them the clip of Villanova in the national championship game in 2016, and when they drove down the court and against North Carolina, and they kicked it back and they made the three, and they were interviewing the players after the game. And one of the players said that we have been through that situation so many times, over and over and over again. Coach Wright has put us in that situation over and over and over again. We were ready for anything that the defense threw at us. We were ready for anything that they threw at us, and we ended up and we made the shot because we put ourselves in that situation and we were smart situationally. And that's our job here, all right, with the Eagles, to make sure that we go through all those situations with them and create a good, smart football team. And lastly, as far as a core value of mine is fundamentals. Being good at the fundamentals, winning your one-on-one matchup because you won that matchup with fundamentals, right? Because when you're playing this game, the parity is so tight in the NFL. You have one player that's just as good as this player, and one coach is going to call a good play, and this coach is going to call a good play. So what gives there? Fundamentals. All right, being good, and that's how we develop players, getting them good at the fundamentals that it takes for that player to be good at his position. And I remember a quote. I like to study great players and great athletes and great coaches. And Kobe Bryant is one person I've loved to study more than anybody. And he talked about how yes, he was extremely talented, but at the core of his game was the fundamentals. And when you can combine the fundamentals and you combine that with the talent, that's when you get a player to reach the level of excellence. And those are the core values that I like to bring here and build upon here of the Philadelphia Eagles. And with that, I'd like to open that up to questions.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started with Zach Berman and then Dave Zangaro.
Hey, Nick, did you take this job with the stipulation or the expectation that Carson Wentz is your quarterback next season? And if so, what's your plan to get the most out of him?
Well, I took this job because what a great organization this is. And the plan here is that we have to go through a lot of things here. We're getting our coaching staff in place. We're getting it in place so we can get the best people in here as coaches. And what we need to do is evaluate the entire roster. We have a lot of things to go through with these next couple weeks of evaluating the entire roster and every position: quarterback, wide receiver, defensive back. That is what we're going to be diving into here. And it's great. I mean, we have two quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts that are top notch. They're top notch quarterbacks, and a lot of teams don't have any. And so just really excited to work with both of them.
Hey, Dave Zangaro and then Mike Kay.
Hi, Nick. Kind of to follow up on that, there have been plenty of reports about Carson's relationship with the organization being strained. Wondering what your conversations with him have been like so far, and do you feel like it's a reconcilable relationship?
Yeah, I can't speak on that, Dave. I've talked to Carson. I've been reaching out to our players. It's been a whirlwind, obviously, so far as just the amount of things that do as I've took this job and a week into this job, but trying to communicate with all our players as quickly as I can. I've talked to Carson. We've had good conversations I know he's talked to our offensive coordinator as well, and just excited to work with him as we move here forward.
Okay, Mike Kay and then Tim McManus.
Nick, what went into hiring Jonathan Gannon, and why is he the right hire for defensive coordinator?
Well, I've been with Jonathan for the last 3 years, so you can almost say that he's been on an interview with me for 3 years. But I think that his football IQ is off the charts. When I want to know something about a defense, all right, for the last 3 years, if I wanted to know something about a defense, he's the first one I've went to. He's the first one I've went to every single time. Hey, tell me how they're doing this. His football IQ is off the charts. His players play well for him. All right, his players love him, and his energy is contagious. He loves football. He loves football. He loves being around football. He loves being on the practice field. He loves being in the meeting room. Tireless worker who I believe in, that I truly believe in, and his organization skills to be a very good defensive coordinator in the NFL.
Hey, Tim McManus and then Ruben Frank.
Hey, Nick, have you spoken to Jalen Hurts as well? And what has your message been to the respective quarterbacks?
Yes, I've also spoke to Jalen. Again, I'll keep our conversations private. Just, those are conversations between the player and I. But same conversation with him is that I'm really excited to work with him. He had a great, we studied him last year, had a great college tape. He played meaningful snaps this year that he played well in. So, the conversation with him and the conversation with the guys that I've had is, really excited to start working with you. Really excited to work with you. And most of the conversation is getting to know the individual besides football. I'm going to learn a lot about him in football. I know I'm going to learn a lot about him in football in this next week, but I wanted to know a little bit more about each player that I've talked to personally. Right. And then when I look at the tape and I look forward to this, at the tape of being honest and having honest and open conversations with each one of them of what I saw on the tape and how we can improve, all of us improve.
Hey, Ruben Frank and then Kristen Rogers.
Hey, Nick, welcome to Philadelphia. Knowing what you know about the roster, what you know about the franchise, what you know about the team, what's your personal timetable as far as when you can win, when you can be a playoff team? How long will it take?
That we have to continue to, we have to go through the process here. We're still in the first part of this phase of getting the right coaches in place to come in and coach the guys, right? To that their core values line up with my core values, right? And they're good teachers of fundamentals. So we're in that phase right now, right? Then it goes to evaluating the roster. But this team and this city, this organization, I'm confident this is a really there's a talented group. Howie and his staff have put together a talented group, and just super excited to work with all the guys here, because I know there's a lot of talent in this building.
Okay, Kristen Rogers and then Jeff McClain.
Hi, Nick. Welcome to Philadelphia. Can you walk us through your offensive philosophy and what it's going to be like as you take this step into play caller?
Yeah, it's a great question. The offensive philosophy, again, this goes to, we're going to be multiple of, we can attack multiple ways. And I'll just use the example here from Indianapolis, right? We had Andrew Luck as our quarterback. That followed up with Jacoby Brissett as our quarterback. And then that followed up with Phillip Rivers as our quarterback, right? And those three teams looked different. They were all different in their own ways of how we attacked defenses and how we played the game. And I think that's the sign of a good coach, that you're gonna change based off of your personnel, right? We have a certain personnel in place. We're going to figure out what they can do well and how and what their strengths are, and we're going to play to their strengths. And we're going to try to keep them out of situations that they don't excel well at. And so and that can change. We can look at the tape, right? We can look at the tape and think about, hey, well, this would look really good. This is how he fits a couple things that we've done in the past. All right. But that could change based off of practice, say, okay, maybe we're gonna have to see it in practice, and then that could change based off a game. So it's an ever changing offensive philosophy. Sure, we have our core plays in place that we want to do and that we want to be good at, because that's what we do. But a lot of it is going to depend on our personnel and utilizing our personnel to their strengths and their weaknesses.
Hey, Jeff McClain and then Elliott Shore-Parks.
Nick, you said that you have two top-notch quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. So does that mean that there will be an open competition at quarterback if they both return?
Again, that's something that we have to look and evaluate. And I'm not ready to say that either way yet. We're just evaluating our players, evaluating every position, and every position, right? We don't know any of these guys really yet. From what we've seen on tape so far, because we haven't watched any. So every position that is going to be evaluated, and every position is going to be, open, I guess to say. And we can't wait to start watching the tape and seeing what our players can do.
Elliott Shore-Parks and then Paul Domowitch.
Nick, if you had a chance to look at the receivers on the roster from last year, what are your thoughts on them? And specifically, how do you see Jalen Reagor in your offense?
So again, no, haven't seen know the players, know the players more so on the sense of, what you see on opposing teams' film. And there's not, of the tape that I've seen in the past 3 years, there's not a lot of crossover tape with the Eagles and the Colts. So know a little bit about because there's some, but know a little bit about it from there. And that's that aspect. Know a little bit about it from the highlights that you see on TV. Most of my knowledge on these guys is when we studied the player coming out of college. And last year, all I can speak of is last year on Jalen. Thought he was a phenomenal player. Thought he was a really good player with explosiveness. And again, look forward to using him in our offense on some of the things that we like to do with players of his skill set.
Paul Domowitch and then John Clark.
And Nick, you had talked earlier about the time you had spent with Gannon in Indianapolis. In making up your staff, which I realize you haven't finished yet, but you seem to have placed a lot of importance on familiarity, maybe without overseeing experience. Did you feel that's a little bit more important? Did you have people you can work with right now more so than somebody that might have a couple of more years in the league?
Yeah, good question. With Jonathan, again, just have seen him work. And so, yes, there is a familiarity with him. There is a familiarity with Shane as our offensive coordinator. And that I do know with Shane, let me talk about Shane first. Shane and I were in every meeting together, game planning. I know Shane for 4 years, pardon me. And so I know Shane thinks about the game the way I think about the game. And Shane is a phenomenal offensive mind that thinks about the game like the way I do. And it's almost like with Shane and I, and Shane's done a great job. His resume speaks for itself. He's always gotten the best out of his quarterbacks. Did a great job with Phillip Rivers. Did a great job with Justin Herbert this year. So obviously Shane and I have communicated with each other through this past year of bouncing ideas off of each other. And one thing again, though, the way we think about the game is so similar. That's going to be an easy transition for us. It's like we're starting on date 15 instead of date 1. And I've seen Shane at work. I've seen Shane grind. I've seen Shane dig for all the little things on the tape to give us the best play possible to put our guys in position to win. I've seen Shane communicate with guys. So again, it's just like another 4-year interview process that I had with Shane, and I think the world of him. I think he's a phenomenal coach, and so happy to have him here on the staff. And so, and like I said with Jonathan earlier, so it's more about it. I'm looking for good coaches. The net is cast, right? We looked at a bunch of people of who we wanted to hire in those positions, and it just kept coming back to those guys being the best candidates because of who they are as football coaches and people.
Follow up, Nick. You kept Jeff Stoutland. What went into that?
Yeah, his tape speaks for itself, right? When I first got to Indianapolis in 2018, Frank Reich obviously was here in 17 with the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, we watched a lot of Charger tape where I was coming from, and we watched a lot of Philadelphia tape. And you just saw his offensive line playing really well over and over again. You could see the fundamentals and technique that his offensive line played with. And you could see how hard they played. And, so that was noticeable without even saying a thing. And then to hear how Frank Reich talks about Coach Stout was unbelievable. He loves him, and he always talks about him. And it's almost as if I knew him before right after I took the job, because I had heard so much about him. And then get to chat with him on the phone. It was just a no-brainer. His resume speaks for itself. Phenomenal coach who gets the best out of his players, and so excited that he's part of this staff.
John Clark and then Les Bowen.
Hey, Nick, how involved were you with the game plan and the calling of plays with Frank Reich, and why are you ready to call plays for the first time in the NFL?
So there's a collaboration between myself, Frank, and the entire offensive staff, right? And for every portion of that game plan, right? For every portion of that game plan, we all discussed the plays. And Frank and I have been together we were together 3 years, 6 years together. All right, we were together 6 years in all. And as we go through the game, Frank's would communicate with me and talk to me and ask me about, hey, what are you thinking here? What are you thinking there? So when you call plays, all right, in the NFL, it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration of everybody. And the hard work goes into that game of how you call plays Monday through Saturday. It's truly Monday through Saturday with being in those meetings together, everybody being in the meetings together and thinking about the plays first, and then taking that game plan and spelling it out to the quarterback and seeing what they like. And then when you get to the later in the week saying, okay, what's our first, third, and 2 to 3 call? Here's what it is. Here's what it is. What do we want to call on 2nd and 10? What do we want to call on 2nd and 1? What do their tendencies say? So that is constantly talked about throughout the week. And if you're doing that and if you're putting in the hard work throughout the week, you're going to be ready to call the game on Sunday. Are there adjustments to be made? Absolutely. Are there things that pop up that you didn't think that you might see? Absolutely. But we've done that. We've done that together as a staff in Indianapolis. We did that together as a staff in the San Diego Chargers. I'm more than ready and excited to call a game here. And again, have great support staff here with me to help me do that, just like Frank had with him in Indianapolis with his coaches.
Hey, Les Bowen and then Jamie Apodi.
Hi, Nick. In your 2-day interview with Jeffrey Lurie and everyone else, obviously Carson Wentz went through a very steep decline last season. Was that a prime topic of that interview, how to get him back on track? And do you have a time frame for establishing a starter? Do you think it's important to have one, for instance, going into training camp?
You know, we talked about many things. We talked about, like Mr. Lurie mentioned, we talked about game planning and how we would attack defenses. We talked about leadership qualities and the things that go into that, and communication skills. There was a wide variety of things that we talked about. And, you know, of course, we talked about positions on the team as far as, you know, what we might be looking for as far as positions on the team. So again, many different things that we talked about, players, positions, coaching staff, it was all on the table. And as far as the starter, haven't really thought about that yet, and naming a starter, that hasn't even crossed my mind. Again, just trying to evaluate the players on our team and get the staff together.
Thank you. Jamie Apodi and then Martin Frank.
And Nick, welcome to Philadelphia. I had a chance to talk with your college coach, Larry Karras, who said some amazing things about you, and it was pretty special conversation. And one of the things that he said was that you have a unique compassion for players, but specifically for players who have undergone adversity in their careers, like major injuries. And it sounded to me like I could hear him kind of talking Carson Wentz without saying it. Do you think that compassion that you bring to players who have undergone adversity like major injuries is something that will help you work with Carson Wentz? And do you think that you have the ability to kind of, I don't want to say reform him, but help bring him back to what he was before?
Well, the reason I've become like that was because of Larry Karras. I had a major injury that I went through my sophomore year in college, and I'm sitting and I was in the hospital for 10 days or so. And he came into the hospital room right before we played that. We had a game that Saturday. I got hurt in practice. He came in the locker room, or pardon me, the hospital room where I was sitting with my parents the day of the game, early morning before he went into the stadium. And all he told me was, you know, we're going to miss you today. And that's all he really needed to say to me. And that meant so much to me as a player. I looked at him and I didn't say anything, but I thought in my mind is, if I can come back from this injury, then I'm going to try to do everything I can do for you to be an All-American. And I didn't have the talent to do that, but you know, that meant a lot to me. So again, you take these things from different areas and that you've learned, and you put them into how you coach. And so, you know, so I learned that from him. That was one of the things I learned from him. So yes, I think that I've always taken that opportunity when a player is going through something at least explain the story, the adversity that I've been through. And so that's a form of connecting. And that's why I talked about that as number one of good football teams. All right, they connect with each other, and that's a form of connecting. You can't just connect in the good times. You can't just connect in the bad times. It's through both. But sometimes through that adversity, it gives you a great chance, all right, to really connect to a guy. And of course, any player I just look forward to connecting with each player on this team, good and bad, through good and bad times, and being able to share that story with them and hopefully helping them get through hard times. So it's worked for me in the past, and we'll continue to do what's worked for me. But really, when it comes down to it, it's just about caring about people and about the players on your team.
Okay, we have time for 3 more questions, so we'll go Martin, Frank, Howard Eskin, and John McMullen.
Hi, Nick. Welcome to Philadelphia. My question is, in the last 3 years in Indianapolis, you had 3 different starting quarterbacks in Luck, Brissett, and Rivers. And I was wondering, how do you think that prepares you for handling the quarterback situation here? I mean, if you have to decide between Wentz and Jalen Hurts, does that mean, that you're obviously not particularly married to one quarterback in particular, that you can kind of go with either one?
I think all that means is that we know how we figured out ways. The job of our football team, our football coaches, is to figure out ways to win each game. There's always a way to win each game, and we just have to figure out what it is. So it's the same thing. I mean, I think it's the same thing that we've went through in Indianapolis. We had to figure out a way to win with each quarterback. And we're going to have to figure out a way to, not only are we going to have to figure out a way to win with each quarterback, we're going to have to figure out a way to win with each offensive lineman and each running back and each receiver and each defensive lineman and each safety and each corner, right? That's going to be the key, again, to figure out what our players do the best and form our system off of that.
Okay, Howard Eskin and then John McMullen.
Nick, looking at the NFL, all but one team that won a division had a veteran coach. What do you need to do as a young coach in gaining the respect and having the players do for you what they do for veteran coaches? What is it that you have to do?
I think a lot of it starts with the 5 things that I mentioned in the core values, right? The connecting, right? The constant competition, the accountability. Everybody wants to be coached hard and be held accountable. I know that. The teaching them having a smart football team and teaching them the ins and outs of doing that, and then the fundamentals. I really believe this. When it all starts with when a player looks at you, the first part of connecting, in my opinion, is when a player looks at you and he starts to feel like this guy can get me better, right? That's where the connection can really become, right? So we feel like we get players better through those core values that we have that are important to our football team. And once those players feel and know that we're doing everything we can to get them better, that's what they want. They want to reach levels that that coaches can bring them to, right? They have the talent. They have all the talent. Can we get them to play a little bit better than their talent level? And I think that's the start of the connection. And that's the start of when you're building something really special, when they can raise their level because they trust you and they believe in you as a coach.
Nick, can I just follow up with something really quick? Can you tell us one way or the other whether Carson Wentz will be back with the Eagles next year?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I again, evaluating everything, and again, there's a lot of things that go through evaluating everything.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, we have time to squeeze in 2 more here, so we'll go John McMullen and then Jimmy Kempski.
Hey, Nick, just to get back to your coaching staff a little bit, and Jonathan and Shane, and also if you're bringing Michael, Shane's been a coordinator in the past, but the other guys would be first timers. You would be a first time play caller. Did you give any thought about being a CEO type coach, maybe to oversee everything as opposed to the play calling? And also real quick on Brian Johnson, because you didn't have the relationship with him. What stood out about him to make you think he could coach the quarterback position on that day-to-day basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, we thought through everything. Everything was on the table of, you know, as far as what you're saying, as far as being the CEO or and the play call or just the CEO. Of course, we thought through all that, and you know, just with my expertise in offense, we just all thought that would be the best direction to go to call the plays. As far as Brian came in here and interviewed with us and just did a phenomenal job. He showed why at a young age he was the offensive coordinator for the Florida Gators. Just a really sharp guy who really believed all the things that I've spelled out here with the core values. He just really believed in those things, and he knew how he was going to intertwine that into coaching. When again, I hate to go back to Indianapolis, but again, you pull from different experiences that you've been in. We hired a coach in Indianapolis when we first got there from college. We hired a college offensive coordinator, Tom Manning, and the things that he brought to us to open up our offense a little bit more, that we still run to this day, really helped us become harder to defend. And it helped us fit our players. All right, this player fits this scheme from the college game, and that was really important to us in our first year and the years moving forward in Indianapolis. And so I see Brian as that saint. You know, again, Brian, great human being, great person, great fundamentally, great scheme wise. Again, he's just super sharp. And then on top of that, he gives us the ability to take some things from the college game to make our offense just become a little bit more difficult to defend. So that was another thing that was really attractive about Brian.
Hey, we'll end it here with Jimmy Kemsky.
Hey, Nick. Will you have a final cutdowns? Will you have final say over the 53-man roster? And then on game day, will you have final say on the 48-man roster? And how interested are you in being a part of the conversation in terms of free agent acquisitions in the draft?
Yeah, no, Howie has final say over the 53. I believe I have the say over the 47 on game on game day of what we need to go through the game and get into the game and the pieces that we need. As far as picking the players and helping pick the players, you know, I really look forward to working with Howie and his staff to help get the players in here that we feel like fit to what we want to do offensively and defensively. Again, we work with what we have, but there are players that are like, okay, this player has this skill set. We'd love to use him for these couple things that we've had success with in the past. So really look forward to doing that, first evaluating our team, and then doing that with Howie to show, you know, having those conversations about, you know, what we need as an offense, what skill set for the certain types of things we like to do offensively and defensively. So really look forward to doing that with him, because I think the best organizations I've been on are the ones that work together at that.
Okay, thanks, Coach. Thanks, everyone.